Welcome to Burning Ledgers, a podcast by CFOs for CFOs exploring how AI is reshaping finance, from technology to strategy to execution. I'm Matthias Steinberg. Each episode, we aim to bring you honest peer-to-peer conversations with forward-thinking finance leaders, experts, and analysts sharing their stories, lessons learned, and predictions for the future. Let's light it up. Today, I'm joined by Carla Aranda. Carla is a Senior Vice President at L'Oreal and CFO of the Professional Products Division in North America. Welcome, Carla.
Hi, Matthias. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm very good. Almost frozen here in New York.
We got the snow in Toronto, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
So we're excited that you're here. I thought the best is, why don't you introduce yourself? I will say we were excited to talk to you because we love talking with practitioners. It's very easy, to talk about what's going on a very high level, but then bringing it really down to what is happening in forward-thinking finance departments. What are practitioners struggling with, and how are they making progress? It's super interesting. So that's why you're here. But why don't you give a short introduction to yourself?
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, I'm very humbled that you guys invited me for this podcast. I listened to the previous episodes and it was super insightful. And I appreciate that you as a CFO and me as a CFO, we can talk the same language and share our pain points. So I'm Carla Aranda, as you said. You pronounce my name very well. I've been with L'Oreal for the past 8 years, and I'm responsible for one of their divisions for North America. That is the Professional Products Division. I grew up in Argentina. I started my career there in public accounting. I spent few years also in Brazil, and I landed in the Big Apple like almost 20 years ago. So I've been, in finance for more than 25 years. I know that I'm calling myself vintage saying that, but it's been a long time that I've been in finance in different roles. And I'm here now, in a point in my career that I'm more curious than ever with all these new technologies emerging. And I'm glad that we have this space to talk about it.
Amazing. So you have published on some topics that are very close to your heart, and I'll name it simplicity in finance. I want to talk to you about that as well. Let's first start with AI, and then maybe actually bring the two together.
Okay.
So why don't you set the scene? So we had a discussion before, and I know you're working on initiatives for your department and for L'Oreal that are leveraging AI technology. So why don't you just take us on your journey? What are you working on today? What are you trying to achieve? And also, how did you actually, what was your journey to get to where you are today? Maybe let's start with that.
Yeah. So what I said before, I think there is, I would repeat that. I'm a very curious person, just on my daily life. And if there's something new, I want to know about that. And AI has been a passion of mine, like for the last few years. Um, and currently, what I'm trying to do is to try to create the space for my team to also become curious about these emerging technologies, and how to create more those moments in time during our days to days to for really them to adopt AI. So one example that I have is that now at L'Oreal we have an enterprise GPT, and not long ago we did like a launch and learn where we were trying to explore the functionalities of this GPT that we have, and in the middle of the training I throw a question to my team and I said they got me $1 million to spend on fuel and brands. How do you think that is the best way to do it? And the premises was to leverage AI to ask questions to GPT and try to analyze, product categories and a mix in general to give the best answer. So it was very fun to see the output that they sent. There were some fun outputs. In fact, I posted in LinkedIn because I thought it was very nice to see how my team engaged. So for me, that is top of mind, like how I can get them excited about it. And the next one is a couple of years ago, I came up with this idea of how we can analyze promotional activity at one of the retailers, well, the only retailer that L'Oreal has. And it's funny because Patrick, that is in your team, mentioned to me this story about the banana test. Do you know the banana test?
I do know the
Uh,
banana test. Yes.
well,
Yeah.
for those that don't know, the banana test is very simple, and it's the way to analyze if something is AI ready or not. And he explained to me that when you have a big data set, there are anomalies in the data, and that's where the curve comes, and whatever you want to position the banana. But if your human brain or even your smartest analyst cannot spot that anomaly, that is the moment that you have to let AI do the job. And without knowing the banana test, that's what I did with this promotion activity analysis that I wanted to do. There was so much data that we had available that I knew that my team could spend months analyzing the data. And that's where I thought, okay, this is the moment that I can explore machine learning.
Yeah.
So I've been working on that, and I think that's another way to keep exploring the tools.
Yeah. So maybe I can the banana test, and I know it because we in my company MindBridge we use it exactly in talks or to exemplify. If you give a human a few data points that are specified as x and y coordinates on an x y coordinate, it's just 10 data points. It's impossible to see the outlier.
Mm,
Once it's plotted, you can see that 9 out of these points actually, create the silhouette of a banana, and there's one that is actually a clear outlier. And that is, to show and to show an audience how difficult that actually is for the way the
mm.
human brain works. So,
Yeah, you
okay, so
explain it way better than me.
yes, absolutely. Let's dive in a little bit into that project. So I understand
Mm,
L'Oreal does have a captive retailer where you sell your
mhm,
products that you are responsible
mhm,
for. So
exactly.
what is the business problem of promotions that you're trying to solve?
There was a huge amount of promotions running at the same time in a single month. And just to give you an idea, when I started exploring this project, we were looking at 2 years of data of only two brands that retailer is selling. We were looking at more than 140 millions of data rows of information.
Mhm.
So just to give you the scale, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And what was the target? What you were trying to achieve is to understand better which promotions work, which don't, or where you're giving too much or too little, or how do you? I assume the function you were trying to solve for was profitability or was sales, or how did you frame that that problem?
No, I didn't frame it as profitability because I feel that when you go to your business partners and said I need to cut, they get concerned.
Mhm.
So the way that I frame it is that I had the feeling, my gut feelings was telling me that there were opportunities within that area of promotion activity to repurpose the dollars.
Yeah.
Meaning I wasn't telling them I'm going to drop this to the bottom line. What I was sharing with them and conveying, and I think that's why I got traction with this project, was the fact that I wanted to find where the opportunity is so we can reinvest, say on promotions with higher ROI or in general fuel for the brands.
Mhm.
And I think that's where the conversations started.
Understood. And so you already alluded a little bit to the technology. Maybe talk us through how did you approach it in the beginning? Huge amount of data, lots of complexity. You already had failed the banana test from the outset, so a big challenge. You knew where you wanted to go. How did you go about it? And what was then what was the technical solution you pursued?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge was the red tape that they typically are in big corporations. I mean, you and I are CFOs, and we know that we have this when we have these processes, there's a reason behind. It's basically because we are trying to mitigate risk, but also at some point. I feel that in that context, sometimes we get into paralysis. Like, okay, there's this process, we cannot move on. And the biggest challenge that I had during the project is how to advance. How can I test and really prove that there's value in this project, in this idea? So what I did was to do a POC, a proof of concept, which is something quick. Took us like few weeks. I found a partner at the time that was able to turn things around that quickly. And we use a subset of the data. As I told you before, we use only 2 brands for a limited period of time that was only 2 years to see how we work on a regression model and see how that model could be trained. So that's how we started. And that was the first challenge that I had. But with the POC, we were able to advance and prove the value.
And who did you work with? Did you work with? Did you bring in external know-how, or did you find that technical know-how within L'Oreal?
That's a great question because I need to find internal allies, to be honest. And at that time, there was a newly hired chief of data and analytics that he had experience doing this type of proof of concept in prior companies. So I found him he was the perfect ally to do this job. We brainstormed like who could help us, and we target only at that time one vendor. That is a renowned vendor that we work with already in the company. And when we pitched the idea to them, they said, yeah, we can do that. But I think it's very important that you find those people inside your organization that could support the idea.
Yeah. And so what were the milestones that you reached? You said you started with 2 brands. It was a POC, and you try to, what I hear from you is you try to contain the scope and complexity, but find a project that can start create insights and where you can learn how to do this, and also probably validate whether the thesis that this could actually bring you the insight that's valuable is actually true. So what were the milestones? How did that project then evolve?
Yeah, so we finished the POC in 6 or 7 weeks. We encountered some issues during the process that if you want, we can chat about that because I think that was a critical time for us as well to pivot. I think that for me, the biggest milestone was to prove that value that I mentioned to you. And by the way, I was surprised because the value was way above what I had in mind, which was great. Then the second step of that project was really to socialize the project and the outcome and the results. And that's where, all the presentations to the executive team came, everybody started to get more engaged and the business partners specifically because of what I mentioned before, the fact that I wasn't asked them to cut the investment on promotions. I presented as a repurposing of the dollars. And then the third step, I would say, is now to scale up the project, which is becoming a little bit more heavy lifting than what I expected to go through all the processes to scale up now to all the brands and also to larger period of times, right? Like we did 2 years and now it's gonna need to be expanded to be able to train the model.
And so scaling, that means going from the POC, from a much more contained amount of data and products to scale it. What is the goal that they're trying to achieve? You want to?
The goal is to have a model that we can fit. Let's say like now we finished 2025, so now the goal would be have a model built in-house where we can fit with new information. I don't know, and every month or every quarter that we have the data, we throw it into the model so the model continues learning. So basically the objective now is to have like an encompassing model that is up and running.
And it would be applied for that retailer to all the promotions. Is that
exactly?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
you're already alluding onto my next question, which is one thing that we think a lot about is frequency of use. So one theme we see is it's very often cool tools are built for certain use cases that can be quite good at what they do, but if they are not used at a reasonably high frequency, over time they just fall away and they will be cut again. So it really needs the next step from our experiences. Once that proof of concept is successful and once there's a rollout, is really frequency of use as a very strong indicator to how successful that technology will actually be at creating long-term value.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it's also important when you build this model is the outputs that you get. Because has also it needs to be something that is readable, that is relatable, something that everyone can read. And that's is gonna push for people to use it more often. The outputs, I mean.
And so this is really the challenge of integrating a new tool into the processes in your organization, that it actually becomes really valuable, and is not that, it's not too much of a challenge or too much of a hurdle to be used. Is that what I hear?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that big organizations, the biggest issue is in your first comment, is how you can incorporate those models in the day to day. Once users see the results, they are going to start incorporating, but it's going through those red tapes, sometimes bureaucracy in the organizations. That is one of the first hurdles that you're gonna need to overcome.
And last question I will ask about specifically about the tool, but is the
Yeah.
goal that this tool is used to actually, I'm not in retail, but in pricing out and in planning the promotions, or is it used to post promotions, do a post-mortem, say what are the things we need to do better next time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that my goal on these projects is to end up having a model that is prescriptive, a model that can tell me you have $500,000 spent on brand A and not on brand B because there was an economic shift or something. So that would be the ultimate goal of the model. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and not focus so much on the tech itself, but on the team around it and the team that made it possible. So, and we spoke about it when we introduced ourselves. Is really, how did you think about creating the support in your organization for the project, or also in the wider organization? I assume at L'Oreal. How do you create the support? How do you got the people together, and how is now your team adopting it, or what are the challenges you see in adopting it?
Yeah, I think that first of all, it's like probably this one is gonna resonate with you. Like many years ago, when we start managing people, remember that, or maybe you experience this, that when you start getting good at Excel, the team is gonna follow and they're gonna start picking up those skill set because they see the manager, that is good at Excel. Now, fast forward, I bring you to 2026. We have all these new technologies, so the more they see you like being enthusiastic about something like this, they're gonna follow you. And the one thing that I did, for instance, for this specific project, and I talk about this also in my Simplicity at Work article, is the fact that you need to lean on the younger generations because they are naturally curious and they are naturally already versed on these new technologies. They use it day in, day out. So what I did was to pitch my idea to some young team members in my team, and they were thrilled to be part of the project. So I think that that's very important for us as leaders, that you give the space to the younger generation to also step up and take ownership on whatever project you have. That was very important for me during the process.
And I think that also plays into a certain, like, you by creating that example and being proactive creates a certain culture in your team, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you write on Simplicity at Work, which really resonated with me. I think one of the key tenets that you lay out is being or having the courage to say no, and which in my interpretation is also having the courage to question the status quo.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I can't agree more. I think it's very important. The best projects you can do, and transformative projects, when you over time build a culture and a team that actually understands that there is going to be a constant evolution, and that there needs to be a constant challenging of the status quo, and a willingness to just constantly build. I think L'Oreal obviously is a much more mature company. I'm in a younger company, but it doesn't matter nowadays at this speed at which technology brings change. I think teams just need to have that culture, and then they also mentally and they just have that fortitude to see it as an opportunity rather than a threat.
Yeah, and probably this one is going to relate to you. I feel that sometimes in finance we are obsessed with the speed, but I think that it's very important that as leaders that we find those moments to pause. I mean, for me, pause is a strategy to pause, to think, and find those moments to brainstorm new ideas and really to innovate. And
Yeah.
let AI do the heavy lifting.
Yes, that's a good way of looking at it. How did you position the project in the wider organization? Was it at all necessary? And I'm asking, was it at all necessary? I don't know, for budgetary purposes, or to get the support, or just also to give it more visibility, or is it something that's still very contained in your team?
No, no. I socialize the project intentionally. As I mentioned before, I wanted to find allies within the organization, people that could support the idea. And to do that, you have um, to engage people with the idea, to follow what you're trying to do. What is the ultimate purpose? So absolutely, I think that's something that you need. If you work in isolation, I think you're gonna find like even more roadblocks in the way. So I highly recommend like start like socializing your ideas. You're gonna find someone that is gonna be super supportive, and then click to that person, and keep rolling.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and we see that a lot, that it's very hard to do successful AI project, especially when they are a little bit more involved than something that's very much based on the usage of readily available tools like LLMs.
Mhm.
It gets very hard to get these projects or make these projects successful is that if there is not wider visibility in the organization and wider support. And sometimes that
Absolutely.
really is the, even if there's great technical know-how and there's a lot of motivation, it needs often like having executive visibility, support, sometimes even access to budgets can be a real game changer.
But I think you have to approach this type of projects with a very startup mindset, and really be resilient, because I'm sure that along the way, when you start socializing the project, someone is gonna say, "No, not for me," or "No, don't do it." So I think you have to be very resilient. So my suggestion: approach these innovation projects with a very, very entrepreneurial spirit.
I think it makes absolutely sense. Um, can you talk to, just zooming out a little bit now?
Hmm.
We understand you had a very successful POC. How are taking those first innings of your project? What are the things that you can share that you learned? Like, what would be the, for listeners that are, I think most finance professionals are in some form thinking about a project, working with a project, are grappling with how to further the AI agenda in their department or in their company. What can you share with them? What would be your key learnings
Yeah.
that
I
you
think that
took
I've
away?
been yeah, I've been sprinkling some of those comments during the my answers, but I think that I would summarize it with a very entrepreneurial mindset. Start your project with this startup mentality. Be resilient. If you truly believe that that's a great idea, push for it. I mean, find your allies in the organization. And I think that one thing that I mentioned that I think is super important is lean on experts. um, Early in my career, I thought that, I had to know it all. And the bulletproof leader, I can tell you that is a myth. And it's okay if you say, I don't know. And I approach this project not knowing very much. Well, I yet don't know coding or Python and all that. So you don't need to know all the things. You just need to lean on the experts. So that one for me was key also, to be able to rely on people that they know what they were doing. And I would suggest that one to put it at the top of the list of my learnings.
Very good. Yeah, and I think that is where the industry is, where we are going, but there still is a lot that needs to be developed and
Oh,
learned.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
want to
absolutely.
emphasize one thing that I hear from you, and I think that often we see not fully understood. You spoke about using agents. You spoke about using a custom or an enterprise GPT, which is an LLM. You spoke about using machine learning. You spoke about Python. I think that's a really important observation. ChatGPT really put AI on everyone's radar, but too often, especially for finance, AI is just equated with large language models, which is too limiting. Large language models have extreme strength, but out of the box, at least they're not very good with numbers, and and they are non-deterministic. And those are two things that in finance cause a natural challenge, because we do like our numbers to be deterministic, and we work mainly with numbers. So AI, or AI solutions for finance will always incorporate these different technologies in a smart way, right? And then an agent, for example, will be, an LLM that makes it very easy to interact with the technology and can really translate what the human wants to a machine. But then that machine might, use machine learning or Python on another technology to actually do the thinking, and then the LLM brings it back. I think that's really, you already working and being using these different technologies. I think that's exactly the right approach, and that's where we see especially the finance departments need to go in order to be successful with AI.
Mm-hmm. And I would like to add that I think it's very important that also as leaders that we start incorporating that in our personal day to day, not only on work. Um, I recently came across, I'm sure that you're aware of Notebooks LM, that is
Yep.
something that is within Gemini. It's a tool within Gemini. Um, I mean, maybe you cannot use it on at work because you are within a very prescriptive environment. Like, for instance, a big corporation like L'Oreal, as I mentioned, we have the enterprise GPT, but you can use it for your day to day, your personal life. So I would encourage people to keep exploring.
Yeah, I have played with it. I'm still I'm still dreaming about the AI tool that just takes some bullet points and creates the perfect PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah, I would love that.
And that's
Yes.
a first step. Yeah. Um, so one question we like to, and I like to ask every time, which is, take us through your day as a CFO in 2030 or 30 or 2040. So, the CFO of the future, what will a typical day for you look like?
Oh, I love the question. I mean, I'm very futuristic, so this is the right question for me. I think that the CFO is not going to be the chief financial officer. For me, it's going to be the chief simplifier. Um,
Mhm.
I don't think that in 2031 I'm going to be managing the ledger. I think that I'm going to be managing the environment and making sure that everyone is up to speed with all these new technologies, and I'm going to be creating the right culture for that. I think that I tap on this before. I would love start the day going to my agent, AI agent, that would summarize what happened overnight.
Mhm.
So I have it in the tip of my hands, and I can dedicate more time in the thinking process rather than putting all that information together. And I think that with the use of these new technologies by 2031, I think that I expect myself to spending more time on those one-on-ones and on those intentional meetings where we discuss innovative things. I would totally leave the keys of, the transactional work, the heavy lifting to AI. I'm more than glad to pass that on so I can focus on the thinking.
So a lot of automation has happened by then,
Oh,
I hear,
yes, yes, yes.
and lots of agents around you that do
Oh, yeah,
a lot of the grunt work.
yes.
Yeah. Good. So let's spend. I promise, and I'm really interested. Why don't you share your core thinking on simplicity at work? It's a topic that you've written on, that you feel passionate about. Yeah, tell us more.
Yeah, I think at the core of it, started very early in my career, this concept of why I have to spend so much time, trying to achieve a 100% correct answer, when if I get 80% of that analyzed, I can get a more agile answer. So early on in my career with different projects that I work in, I start to experimenting with that. So I think that simplicity goes also very well hand in hand with agility, how you can become more agile. And over time, of course, I came up with a frame. In my article, I talk about the three key questions that you can ask. Um, and I have plenty of examples. One of them is one thing that I did some years ago in my career is I came into a new role. I realized that my team was producing bunch of reports with distribution lists that were endless. And my first reaction is like, why are we doing all this? Who's benefiting from that? And I went cold turkey. I told my team, simplify it in one report. Let's reduce the distribution list. And the funny thing is that when we did that, only one person came back to us and say, "Hey, can you send me the five of six original reports?" And for me, that was eye opener, because that means
Yeah.
that sometimes we are so much embedded on our day to day that we don't question like who's using it, like what's the benefit of doing that. So that's the core frame within the Simplicity at Work article that I wrote.
I'm smiling. It very much resonates. I won't name the company, but I have come into a company with like a 70 people, controlling team and a lot of historic reports. And we did exactly that. We just didn't send out a lot of the reports, saw how many people complained, and then together with them, with our customers, decided what we actually were going to do in the future. So
Absolutely, yes.
very, very much resonates. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you one funny story. Few years ago, I got into a job, and I was chatting with someone in my team that showed me an Excel file. It was an Excel file with thousands of tabs. There was one tab that had the name of the former CFO of the person, my predecessor, the person that was before me, and a tab with my name. So I asked her, like, why there are like two tabs? It was a summary tab, and she goes, well, the prior CFO asked the information to slice it in some way, and you asked for the information on this other way. I said, no, just challenge me and tell me this is what I've been preparing. That serves the purpose rather than create a new tab with my name. I felt honored, but it wasn't necessary.
I love that. I love that. But it's the right reaction. That's great.
Yeah,
You are founding member of Blend, or Blend in New York,
yeah,
of the New York chapter.
yeah.
So how, like, first of all, maybe tell us all what that organization does, and is there a link to your work with AI now that you can tell us about?
Yeah, 100%. By the way, a Blend team member taught me about Notebook LM. So,
Mhm.
there's a benefit of sharing perspective with people can be in your industry, could be in your function or not. Blend specifically doesn't focus on function, it's function agnostic and industry agnostic. And that's what I enjoy the most, having a community where there's no judgment. You're not in a performance review. You can go and ask any questions and interact with people that is a C-suite level individuals, where you can brainstorm, bounce ideas, and when I joined the company, I realized that you're not the only one suffering and having pain points in your day to day. When you start sharing, you realize that you're not by yourself. And one thing that made me think once I joined Blend is the fact that when your own development is within the walls of your organization, you have a very serious tunnel vision syndrome. You don't see what is out there. But when you start interacting with like-minded people, I think that's where your perspective is open, and you can learn about Notebook LM as well. So there's a lot of training that this organization
Mhm.
also provides to the members, and AI is, of course, at the core of it.
Amazing. I think we will post a link to the organization in our show notes. so
Great.
listeners can
Thank
actually
you. Thank
find it
you.
and find you. Brilliant. Carla, this has been very enjoyable, very interesting. I love what
Likewise.
you're doing. I'll disclose what you're doing on promotions. Like, this dates me, but 20 years ago, I was part of a startup in France that was doing exactly that, applying machine learning and the very new cloud computing, trying to optimize retail. So it very much resonates. I wish you best of luck with it. I have no doubt you
Thank
can
you.
really leverage the technology to make your team and your life easier, and to create
Absolutely.
value. So
Yeah.
thank
Thank
you
you,
for coming
Matthias.
on.
This one was a pleasure, and stay warm.
Yes, I will. I
Bye.
will.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking outside. This episode was brought to you by MindBridge, the leader in AI-powered financial decision intelligence. To learn more, visit us online at mindbridge.ai. I'm Matthias Steinberg. This was Carla Aranda of L'Oreal, and this has been Burning Ledgers. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend about the show.